What does the word baptism mean to you? In the Christian tradition, it's performed at a christening. And there's the clue, because christening means becoming like Christ. So symbolically, it marks the awakening of the Christ particle within you, as a priest pours holy water over your head while pronouncing your name. When you're familiar with Egyptian art, the priest, the holy water, and the power of the spoken word are all familiar themes. But first, let's look into the Christian version of this ritual. In scenes of the baptism of Christ, the focus is on Jesus, but actually there are three parties involved: the Baptist, the baptized, and the Holy Spirit, personified as a dove. Yet let's shift our attention to John the Baptist, who the prophet Isaiah called the voice of one crying in the wilderness. And the Gospels tell us that he only wore animal skins and fed on locusts and wild honey. Today we'd call such a man a child of God or a shaman, someone completely in touch with nature and content to live in the desert, which are all traits of Seth. Then the Bible tells us, John baptized with water, but the one that comes after him will baptize with fire, which sounds more like Horus. The third figure is the initiate, on whom the Spirit of God descends like a dove, which is Jesus in the Christian teaching and the king in Egypt. We can trace the roots of this ritual back to Egypt, where it's often called a purification that Seth and Horus would enact together. Then the symbolism becomes much clearer, because Seth represents your innate consciousness that holds within it all the knowledge and wisdom necessary for everyday life, while Horus represents cosmic consciousness, which has to be cultivated with time. So he's the one that comes after Seth. In the Christian ritual, John pours the holy water, water symbolizing energy. However, in the more symbolic Egyptian version, the energies are ankhs, was scepters, and sometimes jed columns, with the two streams crossing each other above the head of the initiate. The final step is pronouncing the name, and saying a name out loud activates it, literally bringing it to life. And with the king, his name was written into a Shen hieroglyph, symbol for eternity. Seth, then, is the precursor of John the Baptist, while Horus is the principle of cosmic consciousness, descending like a dove to enter into the heart of the initiate. Uniting these two forms of consciousness was the ultimate goal of the temple teaching, and this ritual celebrates the marriage of innate and cosmic consciousness within the human vessel that we call the king. He then embodies the union of the two, which is the inner meaning of the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, and explains why its symbol is carved on his throne. However, the role of the king is multifaceted, so many different symbols are connected with this idea. The lotus and papyrus are used to represent both the location and the physical energies of Seth and Horus. And in the early dynastic period, the king was given a title called the Nebti, or two ladies' names, those two being the Netters Wadjet and Nekbet, who also came to represent Upper and Lower Egypt. Yet here the symbolism refers to the governance of the vulture and cobra over all of Egypt and his entire body. As Jesus said, "Be wise as a serpent and innocent as a dove." Now you're probably wondering why you've often seen Thoth and Horus performing the baptism ritual. Well, remember that every single detail in sacred art is highly significant and carries a wealth of symbolism. So as Thoth is associated with wisdom and communication, pairing him with the cosmic consciousness of Horus relates more to the sharing of such knowledge through the sacred arts. But there's even more to it because there are so many myths in Egypt, and one sounds more strange than the last. And one legend claims that Thoth was produced from the seed of Horus, which had entered into Seth through the magic of Isis. And as a result, Thoth sprang forth from Seth's forehead. Thus, both Seth and Horus are his parents. And note how similar the profiles of Seth and Thoth look. And here I'd like to present another connection that most people are not aware of, the relationship of Seth to Sobeck. We just saw how Seth was often replaced by his son Thoth in the baptism scenes. And guess what? Seth is also the father of Sobeck, the dangerous crocodile with its aggressive, deadly bite, who's also known for his great fertility and lives in the abundance of the Nile. So both father and son have a great deal in common. And now let's return to the city of Nubd or Nebt, and the temple that stands in modern-day Kom Ombo, whose most unusual feature is its duality. Starting with its unique double entrance, the floor plan is symmetrically mirrored along its central axis, the southern half dedicated to Sobeck and the northern to Horus, just like the Seth and Horus division of Upper and Lower Egypt. Known as the Temple of Horus the Elder and Sobeck, it's an anomaly in Egyptian architecture. And why these two netters? The strategic location of Nubd on the Nile corresponds to the second chakra along your spine, which is governed by Seth or Nebti, and crocodiles were sacred to the temple there. Then remember that Horus is the son of Osiris, and Sobeck is the son of Seth, and both of them carry the inheritance of their father's seed. So what if the hidden nature of this temple reflects the union of Seth Sobeck with Horus Osiris? Then it would celebrate the divine union of these two forms of consciousness and reconcile the two seemingly opposite principles, whose energies are brought together in the figure of the king. The name Nebti is almost always shown next to his image, while the name Seth is hardly ever used. That's why it's so important to pay attention to every single detail of the temple teaching. Because while Seth was sometimes criticized and his character tarnished, the name Nebti was untouched and rightfully maintained his sovereignty. Well, I hope today's video helped you rethink the netter Seth, who represents a vital cosmic law that we absolutely could not live without. So go ahead and click the like and subscribe buttons and consider supporting the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link below, where you'll also find a link to my blog, News from Beyond. And as ever, thank you for watching.